We'll have parking. We'll have a couple buildings. We're going to go vertical with buildings and have a cafe, bike shop, event space, flexible gathering space. We'll have probably a clinic in there, or at least triage for bike patrol or things like that. And then we get into the bike optimized aspect. So we're going to be doing full on bike park where we're going to have
Welcome to Trail Effect. I am your host, Josh Blum. Trail Effect is a show that dives into the stories behind trails, the communities that embrace trails, and the people who rely on trails as a way of life. The goal of this show is to turn the stories you will hear from our guests into useful knowledge that can be applied to your community while providing some entertaining and inspirational content. Guests on Trail Effect include trail builders, board members, community leaders, volunteers, and regular people who really enjoy trails. For episode 198, we're catching up with Mike Repyak, who's back on the show for a fourth time, and this time with a brand new role as the Director of Development and Outdoor Recreation for the Kocourek Trailhead Foundation in Wausau, Wisconsin. We dive into Wausau's ambitious trail plans, Mike's continued work with IMBA, and highlights from the International Trail Summit that was held this past April in Madison, Wisconsin, basically in Mike's backyard. Kocourek Creative is the title sponsor for this episode. They design and build custom websites, as well as help companies with branding, photography, and e-commerce. Kocourek Creative was started in Wisconsin, but is now based out of Bend, Oregon. Jared from Kocourek Creative is a friend of mine. We've traveled together on multiple mountain bike trips, and sometimes he sends it. For more information about Kocourek Creative, head on over to www.dudejustsendit.com. Yes, that's right, www.dudejustsendit will get you to the Kocourek Creative website, so check it out. Cattle Mountain Apparel, the brand that was built by travelers, hikers, trail runners, and mountain bikers, with the motto of venture far, laugh hard. While I definitely use Cattle Mountain apparel for mountain biking, Cattle Mountain is also my go-to choice for daily wear as it is super functional and comfortable. Cattle Mountain Apparel also offers a lifetime gear repair program with the goal of extending the life of their products while reducing waste in the process. If you ever damage any of your apparel, Cattle Mountain will repair it for free for life. By using the affiliate link found in the show notes or on the Trail Effect website, a small commission will come back to the Trail Effect podcast, which helps to cover the cost of expenses for keeping this show going. Now on to the Trail Effect with Mike Repyak. Here we are today on Trail Effect. I have Mike Repyak back on. Mike Repyak might be the most repeated guest on Trail Effect, considering he was one of the people I was talking about doing this with before we even officially started recording for Trail Effect when it was still driftless dirt.
Yeah, that was a while ago.
Yeah, it'll be 5 years ago this September.
Okay, cool.
So, because it was 2020 when we kicked this thing off. But how's it going today, Mike?
It's going great. Yeah, always nice to sit down and chat with you. We've done this a handful of times now. It's always good to hear what you got going on and share what's going on in the world of trails from the IMBA point of view to now a point of view from a trail developer and some big projects in the Midwest.
Well, I was going to mention right out of the gate, you have a new role. You're not with IMBA anymore, and you're the Director of Development, Trail Development, and Outdoor Recreation for the Kocourek Foundation in Wausau.
Yeah.
Did I pronounce all that right?
Close. Director of Development and Outdoor Recreation for the Kocourek Trailhead Foundation based in Wausau, Wisconsin. We'll talk more about the Rib Mountain and Wausau project here as we go through our chat, but been working on planning and approvals on Rib Mountain State Park in Wausau since about 2018, or you could even say way before that when I worked for Wisconsin DNR. That's when we were starting to talk about updating the master plan for the state park. And that was in 2014, 2015. So through all that work, built a lot of great relationships, and the partnerships there in Wausau are spectacular. Funding's really strong, and the DNR is really excited about this project. So it came to a point where I was approached by my funder, who is also now my boss, along with another partner in the project, and asked if I'd be interested in taking on a role of leading the project. So I decided on, perfect timing to take on something different. And I transitioned out of IMBA in February and started with the Kocourek Trailhead Foundation in March. So I've been kind of joking with folks that it hasn't felt like I've worked a day since end of February. It's been really exciting, great people to work with, and really cool project. But my time at IMBA was great. I looked back and I got sticky notes up on my wall here and kind of a recognition of service plaque I got from IMBA, but did a lot of projects in those 8.5 years with the team that we had at IMBA Trail Solutions, almost 300 projects over that time, 3,500 miles of trails planned in the plans that we did, 750 miles of field design trails that got flagged over that period. And we built, or over 100 projects got built during that time out of projects that we did. And Trail Solutions built on about 35 of those. So just to see the impact of all the work, I'm not even going to say that I did, because it was the team at Trail Solutions, the range of folks that we had there during the time I was on. It's the impact of all that work we did was really, really satisfying and fulfilling. So really cool now to be focused on one community, one big project, and get into all the details from the visioning, the planning, the design, the fundraising, the community engagement, to thinking about operations and getting trail builders under contract and bike park designers going. So it's really cool.
Well, before we get into all that, we're going to talk about something that also happened in the middle of all of this.
Yes.
Which was the International Trail Summit that was held in April of 2025 in your hometown of Madison, Wisconsin. And I'm fairly certain you were involved with bringing this to Madison to some degree, as well as some of the planning on the front end. Let's talk about how the conference went, kind of a recap, but we can kind of start at the beginning so you can kind of talk about what your expectations were going into it, and then while you were there, and then reflecting on coming out of it.
Yeah, for sure. Expectations, were similar to other ITSs I've been to before, other than it's going to be my hometown. So I didn't have to stay in a hotel room. I just ride my bike from my house to Monona Terrace Convention Center. So that was really nice. But I got involved with the planning committee for it now 3 years ago or so, and put in a bid to bring it here to Madison, which we won and got announced at the Reno ITS in 2023. And that's when the work really started. We had a pretty sizable planning committee on that had folks who were in Madison or across the Midwest or had Wisconsin interests from other aspects of the industry. And props to Candace with American Trails and Aaron Kay with PTBA. The lift that they put in to make that conference happen is impressive. And they did a great job at coming here and learning about Madison, seeing the venues, and wanting to brainstorm on how to make the conference really exciting and different than others. The setting was spectacular, being on the Isthmus in Madison. Folks are really excited to see that, we're overlooking the water on Lake Monona. I could point over to my house on the other side of the lake pretty much to folks when they're asking where I live in Madison. So it was a lot of work, and there was a lot of interesting things happening with who we were able to get to the conference. Some folks that couldn't come, a lot of federal staff couldn't come with changes in administration. So we took a little bit of hit on participation or attendees. I think the Reno attendee list was well over 1,000. I think we were around 900, so not a big difference, but I think we missed about 100, 150 federal employees. But it was a great gathering, be able to highlight Madison in my role changing too. So leaving IMBA in February and coming on to the new job in March, and then having ITS in April. It was a different experience for me because I wasn't there as a consultant. I was there as a developer, kind of the belle of the ball when people heard I was moving on to a project and everybody was interested in what I had going on and how they could get involved. So that was a different vantage point for me and a lot less stressful. I wasn't standing behind a booth, or I wasn't out chasing down potential clients. I was the client walking around. So that was pretty cool.
And you had some concurrent sessions that went on during that and pre-sessions. Let's talk about those.
Yeah. So I did 2 pre-conference sessions that were off-site sessions that highlighted projects that have been built since we completed the MadBat plan, the Madison Bicycle Adventure trail plan. And first one that we did, we parked out on the Capital City Trail and rode from a community trailhead on a hard surface path. And then we got to the Seminole Trails, which were on Dane County parklands, just a couple miles of beginner and intermediate trail. Then we rode another mile down on the Capital City Trail and went to the Saris Trails, so private land trails associated with the Saris Racks facility, a bike park that was built a handful of years ago, and jumped back onto the Capital City Trail out to the Military Ridge Trail and went to the Quarry Ridge Trail system, over 6 miles of trail that's on an old quarry. Has a big range of just great black dirt to sandy soils and everything in between. So the key to that pre-conference session was to talk about how connectivity is so important to making successful projects even more successful. And then also working with different land managers from county to private to municipal. So we had great attendance on that one, awesome conversations around how you work with each of those different types of kind of vantage points from property managers, and then looking at a range of trail types too. So that was awesome. And then in the afternoon, we did more of a walking tour of 2 projects that directly spun out of the Mad Bat plan. And that was the Aldo Leopold bike park area, where there's an asphalt pump track and then a chip seal shred to school trail, as we call it, because it parallels a hard surface path. The Cannonball Connector Trail goes right by the Aldo Leopold School. So you see kids ripping on that chip seal trail that's got rollers and berms and tables and connects into the asphalt pump track. So we went there and just kind of walked and talked about the process from planning to design to implementation and all the different materials that we were using too, from the asphalt to the chip seal to natural surface. And now, which I'm starting to call the silver bullet to some of the tread surfacing, the Kafka wax polymer granite. We can maybe talk about that a little bit more too, but that's a product that we're really excited about. And they actually put that on the infield of the pump track last year. So you got to see that in action too. And then after we looked at that park, we went to the east side of Madison and went to the Sycamore Park, where about a mile and a half of trail adjacent to a dog park that's on an old landfill, but it was a landfill that we could actually do some trail work on and even do some cut and fill rather than just full import on the sides of it, because the sides were all earthen berms that then held in the landfill. So that was a combination of chip seal and natural surface trails done the year after, a couple of years after we did all the Leopold. So to see the progression in how you're implementing chip seal trail to a different kind of zone that we were doing for trails. So that was fun to get folks out on those also. So that was good for pre-conference pieces. And then during the session, or during the conference, did a presentation on Mad Bat with City of Madison engineers and City of Madison Parks director, and talked about community engagement, how we went through the planning, how we were able to spin out some priority projects and get stuff built, and see how the communities and neighborhoods throughout Madison are now wanting facilities like this in their neighborhoods. So it's really reinforced the importance of that Mad Bat plan, because it set a roadmap for getting projects happening in the future. And then I also did the session I had done for a webinar for American Trails over a year ago, the community engagement webinar I did that in person there, and added some content from the Marquette, Michigan planning that we did with Trail Solutions. We did a really cool story map for that project. So presented that story map as a best management practice, a BMP, for engaging the community and how you can kind of convey the information that you gain from community input and put it into an interactive platform for people to learn about your project. So that was my main engagement for providing information and speaking. Otherwise, I was running around a lot helping with just how conference got done, and I always asked Aaron and Candace on where do you need help on things. And it was a busy week. I was pretty happy that we got through it pretty well with good weather, and that then I was free and clear of that, because it was a busy couple of years of a lot of meetings and all ramping up to a really cool event.
Well, and speaking of weather, the outdoor afternoon, the last day, had like rain wrapping all the way around it, but we never really got wet.
We didn't get wet. We had the little incident with a big gust of wind that blew the food tent over. But that was an awesome afternoon. Not only just to have trail professionals out there checking out new equipment and and gathering around when Governor Tony Evers was there. But all the NICA teams from Southern Wisconsin got invited. Well, NICA teams across Wisconsin, but mainly ones that did show up or ones from Southern Wisconsin came to the offsite. And I did a little speaking engagement with them with a couple other trail professionals talking about professions in outdoor recreation and trail specifically to high school kids, all of our backgrounds and how we got there, what we do. And I had so many NICA students coming up to me afterwards with their parents asking more questions and really excited about seeing that there's actually work in the world of trails that they didn't even know existed. And then we got to see these high school kids on mini excavators, skid steers, like just playing in the dirt, getting their hands dirty with shovels and there's a little area where they were just doing bench cuts with hand tools. So that was just fun to see them get engaged that way. That was a fun afternoon.
Yeah. How was it overall having all these trail professionals in your community?
It was great. Even leading up to it, like people call me, hey, I know you live in Madison. What should I do beforehand? Like, okay, go check out this, that, and that. Do you want to get away to check out other trail networks only 20 minutes away? Go see these other trail networks or get to Blue Mound or get to Camrock. So it was a great way to highlight what's going on in Madison because folks don't really know that what we have going on for trails. And then during the conference, just seeing folks all over town, everywhere I went, it was a familiar face from other locations that I wouldn't expect folks to be in Madison for. So it was great to have that happening here. And there's attendees from all over the world. That's what was really cool. So yeah, having it in Madison was really special. Even the weekend before where there was stuff up in La Crosse, like that was huge. So it was a more than a week long event because of everything that we pulled together to support that conference. So it was fun.
Yeah, I had to laugh. I was leaving my place on Sunday afternoon after the pre-session here in La Crosse, but before Madison, and all of a sudden I see driving down the road like a big 3/4 ton or 1 ton. I think it was a 1 ton pickup truck pulling a trail dozer. I'm like, oh, it's Don Peckett driving through my neighborhood.
Yeah, exactly. So while we've had trail professionals in Wisconsin for a long time doing some projects here and there, it hasn't been highlighted as much as other states or communities. So to be able to talk about Madison and how it is got a great outdoor recreation community and the hard surface trails that are throughout Madison, and now that we're building upon that network with natural surface trail connectivity and building up bike parks and stuff, it was great for folks to experience those.
Well, and this next thing I'm going to quick bring up doesn't necessarily have anything to do with trails, but it does have everything to do with multimodal transportation. And just for everyone to see what the city of Madison has done with their bike ped infrastructure, especially around the Capitol. I mean, that was front and center.
Yeah, absolutely. It would have been, I don't know if it was 10 years ago or plus. Chris Fortune from Saris Rax talked with folks at Trek and then City of Madison and other municipalities in Southern Wisconsin and said, hey, we have opportunities here to do some really cool bike ped hard surface connectivity in Madison because we have all these old railways that are now not being used. Let's convert them to trails. And they went over to Europe. They went to Amsterdam and they went to Copenhagen and saw what the bike infrastructure does there. They brought their learnings back to Madison, and now you see the results of that. And now we've kind of done that with natural surface trails where folks from the city of Madison and others came to Trails Labs in Bentonville, or they're going elsewhere to see natural surface trails. They're like, okay, yeah, this is the next evolution of access in Madison. So it's proof is happening here now after folks see what can be done with trails.
Part of that ITS conference in Madison, unofficially, the night before it officially kicked off, was a gathering of individuals that are involved with trails in trail communities here in Wisconsin. And that was a meeting that you had pulled together with a specific ask of how do we and should we build a statewide trail organization for mountain biking? Do you want to talk about that?
That opportunity was great to come together. Being on the planning committee for the conference and working with the Office of Outdoor Recreation here in Wisconsin, that night before the conference, different trail groups were offered up having spaces to meet, have maybe their own caucus for trail users, and then come together afterwards and kind of report back to a meet and greet event that the Wisconsin Office of Outdoor Recreation put together. So I brainstormed with a few others because we've been talking about the idea of state organization. We've seen it here in Wisconsin before, back with WARBA back in the 90s. That dissolved a bit. And we've seen it working in California and other states. And I just wanted to ask the question to others in the state, should we organize? Here's the whys on maybe organizing would be good. And so I sent out email blasts to all of the natural surface trail organizations in the state, mountain bike focused, but some others too. And said, hey, we have this opportunity to meet. We'd love to see you. Treat the meeting as a meet and greet to hear about what everyone's got going on in the state, talk about what your opportunities are, what your challenges are, and then ask the question, would you be interested in helping with or being part of a statewide organization? Because we have the Wisconsin Association of Off-Road Vehicles. We have the snowmobile organization, dual sport bikes, off-road quads and stuff, like Jeeps and such, overland. Sorry, I stumbled on that one. Waterways, me sitting on the State Trails Council, I interact with all these other groups, and we quarterly are asked to do a user group report. And everybody kind of has an organized report coming out of their organization, where I'm just kind of pulling things because I know people all around the state. It'd be a little bit better to report if we actually had some things that we were working on as a group. So that was the catalyst for me to be like, okay, let's just bring folks together and see what people think. So we had, I think, 30 people in the room. We also had representatives from Trek and the American Birkebeiner Foundation, Windman. We also had some folks from out of state who just heard we were pulling this together that have been part of organizing in other states. They just wanted to hear the conversation, provide some insights. So it was, we were talking for an hour and a half or more, and went around the room, and I took a ton of great notes. And kind of the takeaways from that was, one, everybody thinks and would like to see statewide organization happen. It's like, at a minimum, it's a good way to network with our peers in the state. And then looking at how a statewide organization can be a resource for sharing educational information, case studies, lessons learned. So being kind of that library for folks in the state. And then organizing can facilitate social networking through rides and events. So we're cross-pollinating more. We're all, right now, as groups, are doing our own things. Like the big things that does pull together is the Schwamigan 40, the SRAM Epic, Fat Bike Berkey, Wausau 24. And then you have the Wars racing and NICA racing, but some of the racing aspects don't get all of the trail groups' interest. So it was good to just hear about how maybe we do some other events that are more social based than race based to get people together. If you take it to the next step, then too, is like organized trail training opportunities are a great way for mountain bike based volunteers to learn to maintain trails and do some trail development, but also to invite other trail users to be part of that training. Just like the Horse Council does with the DNR, and then bringing other volunteers in with Mike Ryder's Master Trail Certification training that happens, more than once in the state. Now it seems like. Before he was doing it once. Now he's working with a lot of other groups, along with IMBA Trail Solutions, doing their trail care schools with groups. You're not just mountain bikers there. You're inviting equestrian riders. You're inviting ATV or hiking to learn about maintaining trails. Then you're all kind of shoulder to shoulder talking about your challenges and opportunities. So that's a good way to network with other users. And then where I kind of ended up with everybody there was like, it's a great way to have a unified voice for advocating for trail access or trail funding. WATVA, the ATA Association, along with ATV Association, along with the snowmobile clubs, they have their funding streams. We, as silent sports and natural surface trails and mountain bike specifically, don't have funding sources coming from the state for projects specific to like our types of projects. So it could be a unified voice for advocating for that. And maybe there's a way we develop our own funding stream for trails. You look at the states around us, especially Minnesota, what they did with their legacy funding, to learn that, that was legislature that was put together in 2012 that increased their overall sales tax by 0.03%. And now they've developed a fund that's tens of millions, $100 million to go towards trail access. Tough political times to do that here in Wisconsin, but it's great to kind of start the conversation around it.
Yeah. And at the same time, I think it's the right time for Wisconsin to get a statewide organization, because even though politically things might be a little bit difficult, there's definitely, we could say, turnover happening within the DNR.
Yeah.
The success that other states and other communities are seeing with mountain biking specifically, we don't need to go into all the details of how that historically has happened here in Wisconsin, but it's just times are changing, and be able to capitalize on that now in a unified way is critical.
Absolutely. The timing, I think, is really good right now with projects that we do have happening in the state that are getting more and more eyes on it, with trails being built at Peninsula State Park, with the Trail Farm and La Crosse, work that's being going on around here in the Madison area or down in Lake Geneva, and then the project I'm working on in Wausau. That's getting a lot of eyes on it. And if we can associate that with organization and communication and working with local politicians and state politicians on how outdoor recreation can be better supported from the agencies, then also potential funding streams, you got to start somewhere, right? No matter what the climate is around you. So that's pretty exciting. IMBA has gotten some funding put together where they've engaged a contractor, a consultant to help with the conversations around statewide organization. So I talked with him a month or so ago, kind of recapped what I just mentioned in those bullet points of what came out of that meeting. And now he's reaching out to those individuals that came to that meeting, getting some more information from them, and then is going to report back to IMBA and a few of us others on maybe a roadmap for organizing into the future. So excited to see that that's gained some traction.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we've been trying at this for well over a decade now, if not multiple decades. And
yeah,
I think Warba got folded into Bike Fed around 2008 or 9, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, I thought it might have been even earlier than that.
It might have been earlier than that too. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've been pretty critical of Wisconsin Bike Fed on that. And I think
too, so you're not alone.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think the message has gotten through. So there was a couple of representatives from the Wisconsin Bike Fed in that meeting on that Monday night. And they approached me afterwards, and we've stayed in touch since. And now they're dedicating part of their monthly newsletter to talking about some aspect of natural surface trails and mountain biking. So we're talking about how they could support gathering of groups once a year, maybe facilitating a quarterly meeting or call. So that meeting that we did on that night has now got a few initiatives going. So that's really nice to see. Folks have been asking me, so are you going to lead all this? I'm like, I'm just being the herding cats right now. I don't know if I have time to lead an organization like that, but we'll see how things kind of progress on recommendations for how we could organize. I think it'd be great to see a position get funded for Wisconsin Bike Fed, and they actually have a full-time person in the mountain bike community rather than part-time or just a couple hours a week like they've tried to do in the past. So we'll see where it goes.
Well, and there's other examples of that in other states. Like I believe Michigan Mountain Biking Association falls under what would be their equivalent of Wisconsin Bike Fed as well, or they're kind of one and the same, right? And so there's examples of how that can work too.
Yeah. I think that'd be the preferred way to go rather than being a total standalone organization. There's been a lot of conversations over the years, and we've seen it happen with a lot of groups that went from being MBAs, mountain bike associations. So you put whatever letter in front of it, you're going to come up with a mountain bike association that's got that acronym. But they've been changing their names to trail alliances, taking mountain biking out of that name. And it feels like here in Wisconsin, it'd be good to have a mountain bike specific group, because we do have a lot of great crossover in groups that organize as like the non-motorized State Trails Council. There's great networking that happens there. Me being on the governor's appointed State Trails Council that has the motorized folks in there too, there's great crossover. So having a voice from just the mountain bike aspect, I think, is important. So we'll see how it kind of takes the next steps.
Yeah. In Bike Fed, historically it was pretty centered on Madison, Milwaukee, but in the last few years, they've really made a concerted effort to have members of their organization and other key communities around the whole state.
Yeah, and they traditionally are focused on hard surface connectivity, safe routes to school, separated bike lanes, road biking, touring, education for kids just learning to ride. So it's been really focused on that bike ped aspect to fold in a natural surface piece of it. It just makes sense to expand that organization.
Trail One Components, exceptionally crafted mountain bike components that support great trails. I personally run the Crockett carbon bars, the American-made Rockville stem, and the Hell's Gate grips on both my Trail Light and Enduro bikes. These parts are the real deal, lightweight, bomb-proof, and comfortable for my old hands and wrists. Trail One goes beyond great gear. Every component is named after a real trail, and a portion of every purchase goes directly back into trails. So when you upgrade your bike, you are also giving back to trails. When you purchase Trail One components using the affiliate link on the Trail Effect website or in the show notes, you are not just supporting your favorite trails and upgrading your bike, you are also supporting this podcast. Trail One components offer a lifetime warranty along with fast and free shipping. Well, speaking of communities, let's go to Wausau.
Yeah.
So you started out this conversation talking about your new role. Let's get into the details of that role and what some people might see on the horizon with Wausau.
Yeah. Wausau, almost the exact center of the state, central Wisconsin, and the village of Rib Mountain, where Rib Mountain State Park is located, along with Granite Peak Ski Area. As I said earlier, started doing some planning there in 2014 when I was with the DNR. And it took a little while for then the master planning process to officially kick off in 2018. And our team teamed up with SE Group, who I worked with previously in the ski industry, to do a recreation needs assessment for the state park. And we've talked about it in other conversations in the past few years. I won't go into too much detail on that, just a Cliff Notes version of, the DNR doesn't have ski area planners or specific trail planners on their team. So they asked for a group to step up in the Wausau area to fund and contract IMBA Trail Solutions and SE Group to do an assessment of Rib Mountain State Park and come up with a few different plan options of what could be done there. Because right now, or previous to the approvals of the master plan, there's only 13 miles of hiking only trail on the park, and then the ski area, along with the facilities that are at the top of the park, the tower, the guest check-in or the visitor check-in, the friends gathering shelter. But overall, the park is fairly underutilized, and we came up with light on the land to a whole bunch of infrastructure on the property and gave options to the DNR staff then to analyze and pull into their master plan. So the official master plan for Rib Mountain State Park was approved in December of 2022 by the Natural Resources Board. It includes expansion of the ski area, improvements to hiking trails, adding shared use trails for hikers, trail runners, and bikers, a community path that goes around the entire park that would be similar looking to like a linear state trail, wider trail that will probably do some of that Kafka wax polymer granite treatment on that, and then fully bike optimized mountain bike only trails. So that plan is really excited to get that approved in 22. And since then, we've been ground truthing all those concepts and working with all the different partners. This is one of the most comprehensive partnerships through planning into design that I've been involved with. So we have the Wisconsin DNR and state parks. We have the State Park Friends Group. We have the IMBA chapter, Central Wisconsin Off-Road Cycling Coalition, the Wisconsin Climbers Association, Granite Peak Ski Area, Village of Rib Mountain, City of Wausau, and Marathon County, Iron Bowl, which does gravel, ultra marathons, like just a bunch of events in the area. And then also GWPP, the Greater Wausau Prosperity Partnership. And GWPP, their main mission is community growth through projects in the Wausau and Marathon area. GWPP was the one that funded that recreation needs assessment for the state park. So GWPP is very much invested in this project. And so having all these partners together, doing quarterly meetings, monthly calls, we've come up with a plan that works really well together. When a mountain biker looks at Rib Mountain and a ski area on there, they're thinking lift serve mountain biking. We're gonna have 700 feet of vertical. We're gonna have run of this mountain. Well, that can't be the case because we have hiking only trails. We have a state natural area. We have to work around the ski area a bit because all their utilities are above ground, along with their snowmaking's above ground. So it's a complicated plan. When you just turn that plan on the screen, it looks like just a spaghetti bowl of trails all over the place, multicolored alignments. And that's why we did that story map, that how we present the project, and we start to layer it up from the existing trails to what we're going to realign for the existing trails, because the trails on the south side of the mountain, most of them are fall line trails that are just blowing up. So the why of doing realignments to those hiking trails, adding in the community path, adding in the shared use trails, and then showing the mountain bike optimized trails. It's a story to tell to get us to that full plan. And when people see that story, they're like, okay, now I understand why we don't have a top to bottom 5-mile run on that 700 feet of vertical or whatever it would be. That's why we have a 250-foot segment here, a 300-foot downhill here, and why and where we're at with trails. So that's a really robust plan, taking Rib Mountain State Park from 13 miles of hiking only trail, like I said, to what could be close to 50 miles of trail overall, along with the goal to connect to Rib Mountain State Park, over to 9 Mile County Forest in the future. So if that happens, we'd be pushing 70 miles of a connected trail network.
Yeah, let's back up just a little bit to GWPP just to kind of let people know what that group is, because I don't know, I believe, and you correct me if I'm wrong, that is a group that spun off of the local Chamber of Commerce.
Yep, exactly. It's made up of business leaders, foundations, and members from the Chamber of Commerce that are up on that team and working on business recruitment, employee retainment, and growing the city, growing the county. Marathon County, surprisingly enough, is one of the slowest growing counties in the state. And when you look back at like that Headwaters economics study that was done, say 8 years ago or so, talk about how outdoor recreation-based counties grow faster than non-outdoor recreation counties. Marathon County is not considered an outdoor recreation county right now. I don't know. I'd like to go back into the metrics to see what makes it, how much business, how much funding, how much revenue comes about to make it an outdoor recreation county. But we're definitely doing that with this project. So that's a lot of the story that we're telling through GWPP and other organizations. There's a group called Synergy. It's a 5-county group that is all about retaining business or recruiting businesses, retaining them, and recruiting employees and retaining them. So I've spoken at a couple of their events. We had a developers tour come into Wausau a month ago, and as commercial and real estate developers from all over the state go and tour a couple cities every summer. And they went to Wisconsin Rapids one day, and then they're in Rib Mountain, the village of Rib Mountain, the next day, and talking to those folks about what outdoor recreation does for communities. So I talk about the why, and then I show them the plan. And allow the why in there. Talks about what's happened in Bentonville, what's happened in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and in Knoxville, closer to home, with just the businesses and the economic impact that the Cable and Hayward trails do. Talk about Cuyuna a bit too. So the story really tells itself. Just get it in front of the right people, and we've created this buzz of what outdoor recreation can do for community and a region. So it's totally meeting GWPP's mission and objectives. I'm actually now a strategic advisor to GWPP's executive team. So I sit on those meetings and we brainstorm on other outdoor recreation opportunities in the area.
Well, and the reason why I brought that up is because I wanted to highlight that this is a Chamber of Commerce that is really leaning into not just telling the story, but actually getting physical infrastructure built. Yeah. They are connecting the work that we're doing to funders and making funding asks. And those funders are excited to get involved in a project like this. And those dialogues are being held in coffee shops, to presentations, to conferences. And even so, we've had to go through some permitting with the Village of Rib Mountain. We've purchased some private lands that we had to rezone and get some conditional use permitting. And the presentations that we gave there talked about this too. And we had village
representatives, village trustees get really excited about the opportunities here. And with the funding that potentially is coming and with what this project looks like for impact for the community, but then also impact coming from destination visitation, they're like, hey, this is a gift. This is a generational opportunity, transformational opportunity for the village of Rib Mountain and the greater Wausau area. So everybody's really stoked on it. And that's what I'm leading up with my new role, is to specifically be working on the trail development on the private lands that we've purchased. And then also those trails cross into the public lands on the state park. So we're looking to have a seamless experience from public lands to private lands. And that's the charge I have for this new role, is managing that trail planning and design and construction, approvals and permitting, getting fundraising in place, business sponsorships, community engagement. There's a lot of hats that I'm wearing in this new role.
Maybe you could dive in a little bit deeper, at least for what you know at the moment, as to what kind of some of the private trail development will look like and why you decided to go that route.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we've been going through the planning on the state park since 2018 and then getting that approval in 22, sitting down with folks from GWPP and then our funder behind this. And we talked about what we will be able to get approved on state park lands, then also our desire to do more bike optimized stuff and turn up the dial on experiences, while also acknowledging that access into the state park is really at the top of the mountain. Drive to the top of the mountain to get trailheads. You have an informal trailhead at the end of Grouse Lane, which takes you up the Turkey Vulture Trail to the quarry, and then you get up to the top of the mountain. So I threw the idea out there that let's look to see if there's any land for sale. And others approached landowners there, and we were able to secure 137 acres of private lands directly adjacent to the state park, where we are going to be doing a official trailhead, not just for mountain bikers, it's for all trail users. We'll have parking. We'll have a couple buildings. We're going to go vertical with buildings and have a cafe, bike shop, event space, flexible gathering space. We'll have probably a clinic in there, or at least triage for bike patrol or things like that. And then we get into the bike optimized aspect. So we're going to be doing full on bike park, where we're going to have slope style free ride, where we have pump tracks and skills loops, bicycle playground, maybe dual slalom. So that's components that the DNR and state parks would never entertain within public lands. So by acquiring private lands, we're able to create this really full service, from never ever riders to advanced riders, from hikers and trail runners to families who might just want to show up and grab a coffee and a croissant and watch the action up on the pump track, and then maybe take the hiking trail from our trailhead up into the state park. So we're providing another access point that's going to have full services. And the state park itself is, for the size of the park, 1,500 acres with a lot going on there. They have one full-time employee and a handful of seasonals. They just brought in another full-time employee only in the past couple months to kind of help out with some administrative stuff, and also working with me and what we're going to be doing for trails. So we're coming in as a partner to the state park and be like, we're not asking you all to maintain all these new trails. We're going to come up with agreements with others to be able to maintain the trails on the public lands and also taking care of the trails on our private lands. We want to consider this an all one connected project. And we're providing restrooms and food and beverage and a lot of different experiences off of the park on private lands that then will feed the park. So it's, again, it goes back to this, the importance of the partnerships that we've had with from the beginning with State Park, with Village Rib Mountain and others. It's, I'll say exciting a lot in this conversation, because it is really, there's a lot of excitement going on around this.
This is a question that didn't really dawn on me until just in the last 5 minutes. Will there be a fee aspect to getting onto the private lands? And I ask that from the perspective of, one, I support paying user fees to get into areas that offer an experience that is above and beyond, well, any experience, to be honest. I think the pay to play model is a good model. One, because I think it can offer a higher quality user experience. And primarily due to the fact that you can actually then employ staff to work on maintenance and not totally just rely on volunteers. Will that be a part of this or not?
No, actually, our goal is to be open and free to the public. We've talked about a lot of internal conversations, a lot of external conversations with the DNR. And right now, the goal is open and free to the public. That helps in a few different things, insurance being one of them. We're still going to treat this, no matter what, as just high quality trails providing manageable risk, low risks to maybe the never evers to risk that advanced riders want to have. But by being open and free to the public, that changes kind of the scenario around insurance with the recreational use statutes that we have here. Also, it makes it easier to have that connection into the public lands. We will require a state trails pass. So anybody that rides on state lands and state linear trails, you have to have a state trails pass. So while we're saying open and free to the public, the mountain bikers will need a pass. Everybody else won't need a pass. That's just going to be a requirement there, but we're not going to be charging a $80 access to our bike park or whatever, the going rate is for lifts or mountain biking. So our plan is to put a lift on the 10 to 12 miles of the gravity pod that we're going to be developing, serving about 300 feet of vertical, or at least that's the hope. That's the plan. We'll see how funding works out to put that lift in. It is 300 feet of vertical, so it's something that not too bad to climb. We're going to have a couple nice climbing trails to get up there. Maybe it turns into some more e-bike access up into there. Ultimately, though, we'd like to do a lift. So we'll just see over time how it comes together.
I'm glad I asked the question, primarily because you were able to talk about how pay-to-play model is different than open model when you talk about, or free model, or however you want to call it, model, when you talk about the access and the recreational immunity that the state of Wisconsin has. And when you talk about the state trails pass, we're talking, what is that, like 10 or 20 bucks a year or something like that? It's ridiculously cheap.
Yeah, I think now it might be like 30 or 32, but still relatively cheap.
That's a statewide pass.
Yeah.
For every trail.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the pay-to-play model then increases your duty of care, also increases your insurance premiums, and the increase in premium from what we'll have being open and free to the public to if we are pay-for-play, and we add in then a access fee, we're not going to recoup that to be able to pay that added premium. So I'm not at all an expert in the insurance world, so I may have said some things incorrectly or wrong in here, but that's the way I've been viewing things, and we're working with folks in the insurance industry on giving us good guidance on what our best approach is.
Yeah, and that's super critical. Well, we started this out with you leaving IMBA, but you're actually kind of still with IMBA.
I guess so, yeah.
We're going to say probably as a consultant to a certain degree, and the reason why I'm going here is because you're still involved with Trail Labs, or now Foundations. So let's talk about that, how you just hosted it in Winona, Minnesota.
Yeah. So IMBA Trail Labs has been going on since 2018. We've done, I think, over 15 of them now, somewhere in there. And it's been me leading those and facilitating most of the content, along with having Danny Twilley from WVU involved. He's been a contractor for that. So Danny and I have been leading that. And with me transitioning out of IMBA, there was a pretty big hole there. And I offered up to be like, hey, I'd be happy to be a contractor to continue to work on this with you all, because it's really important. And my funder, my boss, acknowledges that is good work to continue to do. So I have the flexibility to do that, along with some consulting elsewise here and there for work in the Midwest, because we look at it as rising tides lifts all boats. And the Trails Labs piece is super important. And we did the one in Winona back in early May, had great attendance there. So we've moved it from being in Bentonville every year, and then we did a couple of them in Cedar City, Utah. We were starting to look at other locations, and we reached out to the state of Minnesota through the book that we developed, Renee Matson there. And she helped pull some funding together and some venues together. So Winona in early May, and then we're going to be doing Duluth here coming up on October 1st and 2nd. And those locations repeat again in 2025. And then also did a one-day Trails Labs Foundations. The names have changed a little bit there, but in State College, Pennsylvania in June. which is specifically for land management agencies within that state, for IMBA chapters, for the Office of Outdoor Recreation, and a handful of other groups to come in. And we had a really cool venue that we're in. We're in an old copper like fabrication building that was a mile long right next to rail lines. Like, it was pretty trippy, but all kind of remodeled into this really cool space. So we met for a full day. That was a long day for Danny and I. Have to be standing up on concrete all day long, talking Trails Labs content rather than just doing it in the morning and then getting outside and enjoying trails with the group in the afternoon. But that was a great gathering, and some really spectacular questions and engagement came out of that. So for the foreseeable future, I'll continue to be involved with Trails Labs. And just to break down like that naming changed a little bit. We called it Trails Labs at first. Now it's called Trail Labs Foundations, because now Trails Labs is kind of the umbrella brand for all of the education that IMBA is doing. So they have their leadership conference that they did in Knoxville last year. That was underneath Trails Labs. Their trail care school is underneath their education umbrella too. So Foundations is, you almost call it like that 101, where you're talking about all the different aspects of what it takes to develop trails, and then other components can spin out of that to go into more detail.
Well, and you'd know this next answer better than me, but I'm going to go on record and say that Trail Labs Foundations is probably the most impactful conference session, trail learning thing that IMBA has put on since 2018. And I think a lot of the trails, or when you threw out a lot of those numbers of stuff you're able to accomplish during your career at IMBA, I think a lot of that has spun out of people who attended Trail Labs Foundations.
Yeah, the impact of Trails Labs and then also the Trail Accelerator grant, those go hand in hand. You know that firsthand.
I do.
With what you did in La Crosse with the Gateway Project. Yeah, it is a powerful program that I've seen the communities and organizations run with that information and get things on the ground. And we hit everybody over the head over and over again, just like you do on the podcast here, the importance of planning and design. And that's the biggest takeaway for folks there, along with then activation and promotion. It's not just physically having the trails on the ground, but activating the community around those trails, promoting those trails through programming and other aspects. And that's what I'm really jazzed on, is taking all my learnings over the years and applying it to what now I'm doing in the Wausau area.
One, you don't have to travel as much as you used to. Two, you can really focus on hone in on one community and really bring all those ingredients together.
Yep. Yeah. I have a playbook from my years of experience, and I'm applying it now to just a really strong community. And we're seeing it come to light, which is awesome. And yes, I'm not traveling as much as I used to be. Anybody that listens to this that's in the trails industry knows that this is a travel heavy industry. You're all over the place, and you're flying numerous times a month. After working as a consultant for 25 years from the ski area to IMBA, that's a lot of 25 years of travel. And I love travel, but sometimes it got to a point where, oh man, I got to travel again. So now it's just the 2-hour drive up to Wausau. Pretty easy. I got an apartment up there, stash a bike up there. And this spring, I was in Wausau pretty much every week. We've flagged 17 miles of trail so far that we're having the DNR start to review. And now I'm probably up there every other week as needed for meetings and such. So it's a different speed right now, but working on all the same type of things that I love to work on, just on one project.
So I got 2 more questions before I wrap this up.
Yeah.
One is, you brought it up a couple times, and it's something that's on my radar pretty regularly these days, which is the Kafka product. Mm-hmm. And maybe you could talk about that as far as like what that product specifically, and there's another product like it called Staylock, but what those products do in the trail industry for us.
Yeah, absolutely. So still learning about it, but Kafka Granite is based out of Mosinee, Wisconsin, which is just south of Wausau. They got their beginnings as a quarry, a granite quarry, and crushing granite and putting granite down on gravel roads to park paths. They have come up with a few different other products, and they also have quarries now all over North America. What's really cool is that they'll quarry something in Canada, take it by rail or truck to Mosinee, and they do the crushing there. So they have one location, so they keep track of all of their quality control in one location. I think in just their regular crushed stone products, they have over 30 colors and different types of stone that they work with. And then they have their stabilized granite. And this is where I'm not a geotech, I'm not a geologist, but my understanding is the way they crush the granite for the stabilized granite has it come out with a certain kind of structure where it locks together a bit better than just regular DG or crushed stone. So when you walk on it, it feels just a little bit more stable, hence stabilized granite. Then they came up with, and it probably, I won't get it right, but I'm going to guess maybe it's been over the past 4 or 5 years, maybe more. They came up with this natural wax product. So, and they call it, natural wax polymer. Polymer, is just a chemical structure. It doesn't mean that it's like harsh chemicals, but they mix in the granite with this polymer and it acts to bind the granite together. And also it sheds water. It packs like clay. And I've seen the product now in a couple locations. My favorite thing that they do is they bring a bottle of water. They pour that bottle of water on this wax polymer granite that's been compacted. It beads up and slowly rolls off the trail. That, I think, is going to be a silver bullet for a lot of the stuff that we're trying to do in the trails world. We've gone from everything natural surface to then doing things in asphalt, which gets expensive, doing things in concrete, which is even more expensive, coming down to playing around with chip seal, which quite honestly, that's just a nasty process of tar and chip and diesel and making sure lines are clean. You can only do it at a certain time in the summer when it's warm enough to make things work better. It starts getting cold, it all clogs up. It's just a mess. Where this product is, it's not even, you barely call it pour in place. It's like tracked, dump that you go out and you can get it onto your trail surface, spread it out with rakes or machines and roll it once and it's there. And it's relatively easy to maintain. It compacts and it walks around. It feels like asphalt, but it's easy to get into. So say if you had a root or something that damaged the trail from underneath, you can pull that material away and then fix whatever you got to fix and then pack it back in. So your stockpile material doesn't need to be huge. So Kafka Granite is really excited about opening up this new market to them. So they came up with this product for golf cart paths. So Whistling Straits, Erin Hills, two well-known golf courses here in Wisconsin that host PGA, WPGA events. That was their showcase for it first, and now they're doing it all over the world. They've put it down in Dubai, and it was specific to golf courses. I don't necessarily recall how they got connected to American Trails, but they were the head sponsor for ITS. And through that, and me meeting with them beforehand, I've been suggesting this to trail builders and planners and designers that I see everywhere. Check out Kafka Granite. Go to their booth at ITS, get your hands on that, and check it out. And the Kafka folks are really stoked right now because we've opened up a new market for them, and they have orders going to Texas, North Carolina right now to apply it to natural surface trails that are bike optimized. And what I'm working on in the Wausau area right now is a demonstration project for that Kafka Granite. So probably a 400, 600 foot long segment that we're going to build some rollers and berms and put it on bike optimized shapes and get ridership on it over the next, hopefully the next coming couple months through the winter into next summer and see how it holds up. So that is an exciting project to see get applied. It hasn't been really tested on the mountain bike world quite yet, but it's been tested through park development and golf cart paths. And they're very quick to share a video that they got from a client, about a month ago, a client in Iowa, where they received one of those huge rainstorms, 6 inches in an hour. And they had not gotten to all their cart paths yet with the wax polymer granite. He took video of the newly tread surfaced cart paths with the granite on there, and the water is just flowing on top of it 6 inches deep, like it's running water. And then he went and took video of the path that didn't have it yet, and it's just totally blown up and washed away. And he was afraid that even with the stuff being set down new in the prior 2 days, that maybe that granite would peel away. He came back with photos right after the storm finished. Everything was in great shape. So I'm excited to start applying it to projects and see how well it holds up.
It also opens up an avenue for accessible trails, and it's trails that have to meet like legit accessible standards. You know, to get legit accessible trails that are further away from, we'll say, trailheads or day use areas for people, you know, that have mobility issues and maybe don't want to do, you know, AMTB mountain biking, but want to get out and enjoy the outdoors.
Yep. And they have white papers on this product on how it meets ADA specifications for, you know, compaction and rolling resistance. They also have white papers on, they sent it out to third-party testing. Because the first question is when somebody hears waxed polymer, like, okay, what kind of chemicals are in this? Well, the third-party testing that they've done has shown that it doesn't leach. Nothing harmful is in this. So it's easy to provide that resource to a land manager when they're like, what are you putting out in the woods here? So it's a product that I'm really excited to learn more about.
Yeah, I know we're using that or a similar product on a project in Texas. And
yeah, that must be the project then, because they just mentioned Texas, but I didn't really ask what project. So I know Aaron had been talking with them about the product. So that's cool.
Yeah. Well, I think this is at least the fourth time you've been on the podcast.
At least 4.
There's a question that I ask everybody that I don't think I've ever asked you.
Oh.
What do you look for in a trail community? And I'm going to say that you need to answer it from the most selfish answer possible. You don't have to be, it's really what you, like if you're taking a trip, or better yet, if you have to uproot and go somewhere else because you can't stay where you are, but you can go to some awesome trail community that may be fictitious for that matter. Right. What would you look for?
Selfishly, I look for something that has a large amount of connected trail from my front door.
That's becoming the popular answer, just to be clear.
I know it is. And I've heard that answer numerous times, but to jump on a trail right away and get out and get everything that I want and ride back home, not have to be in a car, that's amazing. And I'm lucky to have that at a point here in Madison with all the hard surface trails and being on the lake loop here in Madison. I can just get out anywhere really quickly. To when I lived in Breckenridge, I could jump on natural surface trail 100 yards away from the front door. I miss that natural surface trail connectivity out my front door like I had there, because I don't necessarily have that here. Wausau is going to get that. I mean, to peel back, I guess if you say, okay, don't give me the popular answer like I just did.
That just shows the importance of the value that more trails close to home, as we use IMBA's tagline, the importance of what that really does for communities. So while it's popular, I'm glad that's popular, but let's peel that back.
Yeah. Peel that away. It's then a cycling trail culture and community. Now that's the second most popular answer, right?
Yeah, next to microbreweries or something like that.
Well, yeah, I wasn't going to say those easy ones. That's an easy one for me. But be able to have a community that's really open and engaging to folks coming into the community, that you can just jump onto a Thursday night ride or a Tuesday afternoon meander, and you get all the details on what's happening in that community via the folks that you meet right away. And that makes it feel like home. I'm pretty spoiled with where I live now, where I lived in Breckenridge, what I'm doing in Wausau. It's I guess it's not fair to ask that question because I've seen it all and I've enjoyed a lot of stuff and I live it. So it's hard to give you a unique answer.
I don't think answers need to be unique.
I was trying.
Yeah, no, it doesn't have to be unique. I ask selfishly. I ask for people to answer selfishly, just because I don't want them to give what they might think is popular, but truly what they want. And if that's the answer that everybody wants, that's a great answer.
It is. It absolutely is. Like just having the community, the connectivity, the range of experiences all tied in with local bike shops and breweries, distilleries, food and beverage. Like we're lucky here in Wisconsin because we do have a lot of that. And we're lucky in this industry. We get to visit a lot of places that have all that and speak about communities that have evolved. Like the biggest case study or the best case study I talk about is Crosby, Minnesota. And I think we've talked about it in past conversations we had on this podcast. Like that is the story that's more relatable to folks. Obviously, Bentonville is a great case study and story too, but that's sometimes a stretch for people to wrap their heads around. But yeah, those case studies and getting to live it, we're pretty spoiled to be able to do that.
Well, to wrap this thing up with a bit of an anecdote from ITS, how many people did you talk to that never had like deep fried or batter fried cheese curds before, and the whole old fashioned thing that we have going on here in Wisconsin?
Yeah, I pointed so many people to go get cheese curds at my numerous favorite spots. I think eventually sometime my wife and I are going to write a book on like the range of cheese curds available in the state of Wisconsin. A lot of people are like, what are you talking about? Or they've heard about it and they're asking about it. Like, well, you got to go to Tipsy Cow for their curds. You got to go to Starkweather Brewing for their curds. Like cheese curds, not just a cheese curd. There's a range of them. And some of my favorites are here in Madison. Actually, I think my ultimate favorite might be in Wausau, which just is a coincidence. And then telling people about old fashions and that our old fashions here are not with bourbon and whiskey, which they're known typically as, that they're with brandy. And the reason why they're with brandy is that because bourbon and whiskey were too expensive or hard to come by during the Depression and Prohibition, obviously, that brandy was just a little bit easier to get a hold of. And that's what made it into our old fashions. And there's really nothing better.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's more Corbel sold in the state of Wisconsin than anywhere else in the world.
Yes, it is. And a funny story related to that, we might have mentioned it in a past conversation, but I was in the University of Wisconsin marching band, and I had the opportunity to march at the Rose Bowl in January of 94. Is that right? 93? I'm now over 50, so I'm starting to get my years mixed up. But my parents went to a bar there and said, "Can I get a Corbel and Coke?" The bartender looked at them kind of weird, and they poured champagne with Coke, Corbel champagne, or a brandy old fashioned with Corbel, and somebody's like, or old fashioned with Corbel, and somebody's like, huh? It was like they did an old fashioned mixer and put champagne in there because in California they only knew Corbel as a champagne brand.
I mean, there's a restaurant that I'll leave nameless here in La Crosse that every time I go in there, I do it just to bug them. I go, "Hey, could I get a Corbel old fashioned?" And they're like, "We don't have Corbel." I'm like, "How are you even a bar in Wisconsin?"
Right. They just don't know what they actually are pouring. But our food and beverage scene here in Wisconsin is pretty unique with our fish fries and our cheese curds. And then just here in Madison, the amount of people I talk to that were just amazed by the food experiences that we have here and having such good food. I don't know if it's still the case, but at one time Madison had the most restaurants per capita than anywhere else in the US. And so like talking to Joe V, who used to work for Trek, now he works for IMBA. He lived here in Wisconsin, but now lives in Boulder. He's like, my wife and I come back here and all we want to do is just check out the new restaurants. Madison's the best place around for checking out restaurants. So it's fun to share that culture with folks that come in from out of town.
Well, and the diversity of food, like I am a vegetarian. And so when I travel, it's tough for me to find good food that's vegetarian or vegan. When I went to the conference in Madison, it was like, that was super easy to find anywhere I went. Yeah. It's pretty cool. My wife and I have fun going out and just checking all the new places out because everything pops up new. We got James Beard, award-winning chefs all over the place. And I don't watch the food shows, but they just had Top Chef here last year or something like that. So, Josh, I think you're going to have to do this podcast on a slow fade. We're starting to put people to sleep with food conversation. Well, we'll wrap it up with that. So
awesome. Well, as usual, Josh, it's great to chat with you. We chat online, offline, on podcast, off podcast pretty often, but it's always fun to catch up. And thanks for having me again. And just to let everybody know there's some awesome stuff coming for Wausau. So keep your eyes open over the next few years. And we're going to develop something special.
Yeah. Well, thank you again for taking the time to come on the podcast and helping keep this thing going and continuing to preach the planning and design and the importance of that. I think people are starting to listen now, which is good, but We'll never say it enough.
Yeah, exactly. I'll keep preaching that for sure.
So thank you, Mike. Thank you for listening. If you like what you have heard, please take the time to share these shows with others. Sharing these shows will help create awareness of both the guests who have taken the time to be on the show and the podcast series itself. Also, if you're new to the Trail Effect podcast, check out our ever-expanding library of episodes. If you listen to the Trail Effect podcast on Apple or Spotify, please don't forget to leave a rating and review, as this is one of the best ways to show our support for the Trail Effect podcast. Also, don't forget to check out Cooley Creative at www.dudejustsendit.com. For additional ways to help support the Trail Effect podcast, check out the affiliate links tab at the Trail Effect website, where you'll find links to Kettle Mountain Apparel, Worldwide Cyclery, and Trail One components. By using the affiliate links found at www.traileffectpodcast.com, a small commission will come back to the podcast, which will help keep this thing going. This podcast has been edited and produced by Evolution Trail Services. Thank you again for listening.